Oral question, the Lord Bishop of St Albans.
I beg leave to ask the question, standing in my name on the order paper.
Warm hubs, my lords, as with COVID support, are a fantastic example of the way faith and community groups can work together with the local authorities to provide support and help for their communities. The government strongly supports these initiatives, but local government, who know the needs of their communities, are best able to give support. We've made an increase of £3.7 billion to local government this financial year. We have also made available £1.4 billion through the Household Support Fund.
I thank the Noble Baroness, the Minister, for her reply. Warmwelcome.uk is a coalition of many Christian charities who so far have signed up, I think, over 1,600 halls and organisations and buildings to act as warm hubs, providing lunches, after-school homework clubs and so on. What consideration has been given to using these places of meeting to communicate and help people understand whether they can access other benefits, health advice, local charities and other support that's available during these very troubling times?
The Right Reverend President is absolutely right. Warm hubs are there to do one specific thing, but there are the opportunities that we have to make them not just warm, welcoming places to go, but places where people who may be lonely are not as lonely, and that has the ongoing support for loneliness, which we know is a cause for mental health issues. But he's right, the hubs are an opportunity to ensure that local people are getting the support and the knowledge they need and to what they're entitled to, and for information on such things I see as flu vaccine, COVID vaccines. So we should be using them, and to that end I will be talking, and I have already talked to the Local Government Association about best practice to move this forward.
My Lords, I thank the Noble Right Reverend Prelate for these important questions. Noble Lady the Minister will be aware that there are deep issues in terms of shortage of funding within all local authority, and they're having to scrape the barrel to fund services for children, services for adults with learning difficulties, and a whole range of others. Can Noble Lady the Minister say, with serious courtesy and conscience, that the sixth largest economy in the world, that we can justify failing large sections of the community and rely on use of hubs like this, where the largest amount of, or the most significant amount of work that's been done by churches and interfaith organizations? Can we really seriously say that we're satisfied with this?
My Lords, the government has given large amounts of money to support the energy issues that we have, to support people, to support households, to support businesses. But no, my Lords, I don't agree with the Noble Lady. Actually, I think communities are where these things are best delivered, and I think communities and local government know how to deliver them in the best way. I know local authorities, as ever, are always strapped for cash, but it is a matter of prioritisation for those local authorities, and we have increased the money by £3.7 billion this year in their grant, and there is the Household Support Grant, which, my Lords, a third is for supporting families, a third for pensioners, but there is a third that is unring-fenced, which I think can be used very well in these sorts of projects.
I commend my Liberal Democrat colleagues in the London Borough of Sutton, who have already announced that they will be using their libraries throughout the winter as warm hubs. But I wonder whether the Noble Baroness would agree with me that there are many commercial businesses that inevitably have to use energy for their business, and whether it would be possible to ensure that some of the funding that goes to local government enables them to help businesses to build onto, where possible, to make their businesses into warm hubs. Places like shopping centres, for example, which have to have a minimum amount of heating, and so on.
The Noble Lady is right. We must never, ever forget the private sector. We talk a lot about the public sector, the voluntary sector, the faith sector, but there is always the private sector. And of course the private sector is getting energy bill relief from the government, as are the voluntary sector and the public sector. So they are also getting support on their energies. And I quite agree, you know, if we can encourage locally for more private sector companies to look at this, I think it will help them as well as the people they support.
My Lords, given that my question was about joining up, I wonder if I might ask the noble lady, the Minister, the same question I asked her colleague from DCMS earlier, which is what can government do to encourage and incentivise local authorities, statutory providers, faith organisations, the voluntary sector and the cultural sector, including libraries, to work together to maximise this kind of provision and to make sure it's advertised to and made available to those people in the community who need it the most?
I don't thank the noble lady. I don't think we're starting from the beginning. I googled warm hubs today, and I would suggest you Google them, my lords, across the whole country. These partnerships are happening now. But I did speak to the chairman of the Local Government Association last night, and I did encourage them to ensure that best practice that is now happening with our partners in faith and other community groups and the private sector to actually put that information out so it's all local authorities that are doing it. Look at Leeds. Leeds today have put up a map of where all their warm hubs are in the city. I think that's a wonderful idea and I think should be taken by others.
Lords, it's quite clear that higher energy prices are going to have the effect of cutting the amount of energy that people use. Has the government done any calculations on the demand for energy dropping as a result of higher prices?
I'm very sorry to my noble friend. I don't know the answer to that, but I will go to Bays, who are responsible for it, and I will ask them for an answer and make sure the whole House gets that answer.
My Lords, in addition to supporting organisation to providing warm hubs, since 2011, the Labour-led government in Wales has invested almost £400 million into more than 67,000 homes to improve energy efficiency. Will the Minister commit to improving energy efficiency in homes across the UK? And can I ask her to begin by accepting the noble lady Baroness Hayman's amendment to the Social Housing Bill, which noble lords agreed to earlier this week?
I think the time has come for that amendment, my lords. But the noble lady is right. You know, the warm hubs are about this winter. And the immediate. We have a longer-term plan. Help to Heat is the government's investment of £12 billion into schemes to ensure homes are warmer and cheaper to heat. They include boiler upgrades, local authority delivery schemes for sustainable warmth competitions, home upgrade grants, social housing decarbonisation fund, and of course the energy company obligations. So there are a number of schemes that the government is investing in, as is the private sector, in order to make sure that in the long term our homes are better insulated and can keep warmer on less energy.
Well, I think a lot of the solutions that we've heard in questions today are very much urban-based. I live in the middle of Cornwall. We've got 10 miles between villages. That's not quite as workable as it would be picking up in libraries, which is a good idea. I wonder whether the government has got any bright ideas on the rural sector.
I don't think it's the government necessary. Certainly local government has. As I said, if you Google them and look at the number of village halls, parish councils in these small rural areas that are doing exactly what the more urban areas are doing. We have village halls all across the country, and I think the energy scheme for businesses and voluntary sector can be used by them. But I also think working with their local councils, they can also get small grants to support their local villages. I have to say also, in most of our rural villages, there is a church. And working with the faith communities, parish councils, all working together, you can deliver in rural areas.
I would like to make a constructive suggestion in relation to rural areas and wonder whether the Noble Lady might be able to help on this. I think we need a national campaign to encourage people in small villages, like the one I live in, to welcome people into their homes for coffee or tea and to enable people to walk to a local warm hub, which can just be a local person who reaches out. And I believe many people would be committed to do that. And my anxiety is that we'll end up with loads of people feeling they need to go to a warm hub and sit still, which is not a solution either.
I would be more than happy to talk further with the Noble Lady, because I think some of these things are happening, but it is a matter of making sure that we keep those all together and good practice is transferred across the country.